All right. At this point, we have a basic definition of self-esteem, and we understand that beneath the surface, there are two underlying components that really contribute to our self-esteem. We have self-efficacy and self-respect. What I want to do now is I want to try to further our understanding by diving deeper down the rabbit hole. What I want to do is I want to take a look at what contributes to our self-esteem, what enhances it, and what really contributes to a nice, healthy self-esteem. So the idea we're going to explore in this video is the assertion that self-esteem is a function of the flow of value. Okay, I'm going to say that again. Self-esteem is a function of the flow of value. It's sort of a weird idea, but when I first encountered this, when I first discovered this idea, it completely blew my mind. Okay, so what am I talking about here? What do I mean by the flow of value? And how is self-esteem a function of this flow? Well, in order to understand that, let's take a look at a previous portion in this course when we started discussing value. Okay? Actually, the last topic we talked about with abundance and scarcity, we talked a lot about value. So let's revisit that a bit. It's going to help us understand what I'm talking about here. So in those videos and those topics, what I said is that an abundant individual is somebody who knows how to generate value from within, right? In essence, he confides in his integrity, key words, confides in his integrity so much that he can cultivate new ideas within him. He has the mental faculty to do so, and that allows him to fill his own cup, as I said previously, okay? So he's able to generate value and ideas so effectively, and he's able to fill his own cup so effectively that the value builds up so much and eventually overflows in a way in which that value gets distributed externally. He's inclined to share his ideas, give out value to people around him, and really make a difference. So the question I have for you about this abundant individual is, do you think he has a healthy self-esteem? Do you think he has a nice self-efficacy? Based upon what we've talked about previously, of course! This is the action of providing value is an expression of healthy self-efficacy and healthy self-esteem. Why? Why? Because it says, I trust myself and my intuition so much, I don't need external influences to provide value for me. I generate it from within. I generate value from within, and I believe that by sharing it, I have something valuable to offer my community. It's going to help other people, and it's going to make a difference. Okay, so that's an expression of healthy self-efficacy. It's somebody who trusts their intuition enough to take action and actually believes that in doing so, it's going to provide good results. Now, the interesting thing about this is that when you generate value from within and you flow it externally, you get good results. People start appreciating you. People start respecting you more. It's going to enhance your self-respect. And it's going to further enhance your self-efficacy because you learn and you're conditioned to believe that when you generate ideas, when you have stuff to offer, and you provide that externally, you share it with people, it gives you good results. So as a result, you start trusting in your abilities more. You start trusting in what you have to offer more. You start trusting in your mental faculties, and that really enhances your self-efficacy and your self-esteem. Okay, so there's sort of a saying that the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. When you have a very healthy, rich self-esteem, you're on a upward spiral. You're inclined to take action. You're inclined to generate value. You're inclined to share more. And the good results you get further reinforce that nice self-esteem. So once you start getting momentum with these ideas, you start taking action, you start generating value, you start sharing it with your community, you start going up and up and up. So what else did I talk about in terms of value? We also talked about scarcity, right? So scarcity is characterized, unfortunately, by somebody who does not know how to fill his or her own cup. If we look up at this a bit more beneath the surface, there's an inherent problem in scarcity. In scarcity, you don't trust yourself. You don't believe that you have the ability to influence your destiny, to confront life's challenges and really tackle them head on, okay? You believe that somebody else has the answers, and you choose to confide in external influences. You can choose to confide in somebody else's intuit and intuition at the expense of your own intuit and everything you have to offer. So in social situations, you yearn for external value. You say, fill my own cup, fill my own needs, take care of life's challenges for me, because I don't think I'm capable of doing that. Okay? How do you think this kind of approach is going to affect your self-esteem? You're taking value externally. You're trusting external value more than your own internal value. So how are you going to work through life's challenges? How are you going to trust yourself? How are you going to feel capable of doing so? When stuff gets tough, when life's challenges come into your life, you're going to be inclined to ask other people to solve it for you, okay? So we see that when you confide in external value, when you take value in, when that value stream comes in, and you trust it more than what you have to offer, it depreciates your sense of worth. It depreciates your ability to tackle problems and challenges. And as a result, again, as I said, the rich get richer, the poor get poorer. This gives you a poorer representation of yourself, a poorer self-image, a poorer self-esteem, poorer self-efficacy. You don't believe that you're appropriate to life, that, you really don't feel that. You really don't feel appropriate because you're not rising up to the challenges in front of you. You're not saying, this is hard, but I have the ability to overcome it, so I'm going to try my best, put in my best effort, and I'm going to produce results. You're not really living. You're asking somebody else to live for you, okay? And that's extremely problematic. So in order to reverse the course of the ship, you're going to need to really push yourself, push what you believe in. You really need to train yourself to believe that you can generate value. And it's really hard to get out of that rut because you're trained that you trust other people's intuition more than your own. So it's like you don't have anything to offer. Like, why would you trust yourself? It's really hard to get out of that. So I'm going to provide different tactics for you in later videos, but for now we're just going to focus on this flow of value concept. So what did we learn here? We learned that when you generate value from within and you provide value, that's an expression of healthy self-esteem. It says, hey, I have something to offer, I'm going to provide it, and I'm not afraid of what happens to me as a result of that. But this whole idea that self-esteem is a function of the flow of value is a huge issue, especially in today's, this day and age. Because, think about this very, very precisely. When we're born into the world, and as we walk through the world, as we grow up, everything we do, we're taught not to generate value, not to be creative, not to be an individual, not to trust our intuit. Rather, we're taught to trust external factors and what they have to offer more than what we have to offer. So the framework in which we live, at least in Western civilization, and probably also Eastern civilization also, we're taught really to have a poor self-esteem. The framework in place is a poor self-esteem, and this is why I think this course is so important. This is so imperative we understand these ideas and work on our self-esteem, because the cards we were dealt, it was a poor hand. So we have to play that hand as best as we can and do whatever we can to turn the course of the ship around, to really lay out this nice foundation that works with us, but doesn't take more from us, okay? Because what am I talking about here? Even when we're born, when we're young and vulnerable, we're taught to confide in external sources more than ourselves, okay? We're taught to take value in externally. Okay? We're not taught to be self-sufficient. We're not taught to be self-reliant. When we're born, when we're babies, we're taught to latch on to our parents. And initially, I get it. This is a good thing. We can't care for ourselves when we're babies, okay? We need some sense of care. But as we start to get a bit older and we start to develop mental faculties in which we can think about ourselves, which we can provide some value and we have something to offer, we're taught, no, trust what your parents have to offer. Trust their intuition, trust their experience. They've been through this before. They know what's best. And furthermore, respect your elders at all costs, even if that entails disrespecting yourself. So I think the act of just doing what your parents say, not having a purpose, not figuring out what you want, not taking on the challenge of life yourself, that's disrespectful to yourself, because you're saying your thoughts, your ideas, what you have to offer is worth more than me. It's worth more than me. Think about this very deep, okay? Because this is very important, because yes, we want to listen to our parents, and we want to take their ideas and their concepts for what they are and use that to shape our own realities, but we need to contribute. We have a lot. Our life should be the projection of our own values and purposes. And if we're getting those values and purpose and underlying mission for life externally from our external influences, we're taking in that value. If they create our life for us, what do we have? What do we have internally? Is that really us? Or is that somebody else? Are there, like, the way in which we think, the way in which our mind is programmed, is that based upon our own ideas? Or is it based upon external ideas that were instilled in our minds to influence how we behave? Very important question. So we see that initially when we're born. As we go through life, as we go through the world, we see this cropping up more and more. What's the next step in our life? Next step in our life is school. And I love school. I love school. I think school is absolutely great if it's used properly. But if it's not used properly, it could be one of the most dangerous things we introduce into our life. Because when we go into school, the next thing we're taught is that the teacher is always right. Never question the teacher. Sometimes we have very good teachers who are exceptions to this, but in general, the majority of teachers, they say, this is how it is. This is how the world is. Listen to that. Listen to what I have to say and accept it. We're not taught to go into the world, experiment, discover, and generate ideas and concepts internally. And I get it. We have a limited time on Earth, so we need to take ideas and discoveries that were made for us previously and really use that to our advantage. But we need to think for ourselves. We need to assess those ideas and see how we can integrate that into our own life as opposed to following it blindly. We need to be the wolf who goes into the world, gets stuff done, takes action, is responsible for its own actions, as opposed to being the sheep who's just really rounded up and directed into, the pens. We don't want to be stuck in our minds, cornered into a box. We want to think for ourselves. But you know what? Our teacher dictates that we take in value externally, right? We take her value. We take their experience. We take their insights, their intuition, and we're taught to confide in that more than what we have to offer, more than our own intuition. As we go through the school system, right, they get to dictate our grades, our ability to survive, in essence. That has a huge influence on our ability to survive, our grades, unfortunately. If we have an idea that's well-founded, and we can express that, back it up with facts and figures, and it's an opinion that differs from our teachers, They can give us a bad grade if they don't like it. That's wrong. That's wrong, and it makes it very difficult to confide in our own integrity. If you have this brilliant idea you came up with, you support it with facts and figures, and it's expressed very well, and you get graded poorly about that, and you can't say anything about it, how does that affect you psychologically? How does that affect your mind? It conditions you to say, oh, this is not the right approach to life. What I should be doing is taking value externally. I should be trusting and confiding in somebody else's opinion or ideas more than my own. Really, really, really hurts your sense of individuality, your self-esteem, your self-efficacy, your ability to trust yourself enough to go out into the world and produce results. Super, super big issue. The other issue you encounter as you go out into the world is that you find that the way in which society is structured, we have a technocratic society. What do I mean by that? It means that we have elites who are at the top level, who are making decisions about, medical ideas, what's best medically, what's best for our diets, people who are creating all the technology, saying what's best, the best way to create something, computers, cell phones, what have you. And we're taught that, you know what? They're experts in the field. Do not question them. Let them do their job. And you know what? They have all the answers. That's a problem because guess what? What we learn from history is that people are wrong. People are wrong. Take Copernicus, for example. Copernicus, he challenged the idea, the flat earth idea. And you know what? If you had ideas and you had concepts which made you think that the world is round, people would laugh at you. You would get ridiculed for confiding in your integrity because people are saying, hey, confide in the external established ideas more so than your own self, more so than your ability to experiment and to come up with the ideas and discover them yourselves, to generate value from within, to fill your own cup. So what do you think is going to happen if you go into a challenging situation, science, for example, and you encounter this problem? Are you going to feel worthy? Are you going to feel like you have something to offer the world? Are you going to trust your intuition? You're going to trust more in what somebody else has to say. We see this also in the medical field. Now, I respect doctors, and there are some really good doctors. I think, unfortunately, the majority of doctors are very poor. What they are, in essence, is people who take value, right? They don't have a lot to offer. What they have to offer is a lot of doctors are walking encyclopedias. So, you say a symptom, blah, 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 blah. They run through all these ideas that are implanted in their head. Externally, it's not their own ideas. They don't have value to offer, but they're offering the value of somebody else. And say, oh, you have this problem, and my book told me to give you this prescription. Well, what if they're wrong? What if that approach is wrong? And what if you question that? I remember I discovered an idea that my doctor was telling me. I researched myself. I've been in PhD programs. I know how to do research. I know how to read. I confide in my ability to get ideas just as much as any old doctor, okay? I'm not depreciating their worth or value, but I can think for myself. And if I can team up with them, that can drastically increase what we can accomplish as a team. I found some of the things they were telling me were not quite right. And, I confronted them. I said, something here is not going on. Well, the doctor, they felt threatened. They felt threatened. They didn't want to see the truth. They didn't want to see the truth because the reality is composed of external values they took in. They confided in this technocratic society, taught not to question it. My intuition, I can't discover things myself. I can't discover the truth myself. Confide in external things. So they got very hurt. They started threatening me. They would not prescribe certain things to me. And what do you think that does to your ability to trust your intuit? I know I was right, and I confide in my integrity, and I'm going to stand up for the truth. But if somebody has a poor self-esteem, well, they're trying to increase it, you come into this situation and what do you think is going to happen? You know, if you get punished for standing up for the truth, for confiding in your integrity and what you know to be right and what is supported by facts and figures, in spite of stuff that's not true, in spite of an attack on truth, you're going to be conditioned and inclined not to trust yourself in challenges. Okay? So this is a big issue. And if you learn anything from this video is that self-esteem is a function of the flow of value. If you can generate value from within, if you can trust your integrity, it's going to enhance your self-efficacy. And when you posit those ideas into the real world, what that's going to be an expression of self-esteem. It's going to say, my ideas, my intuition, I trust it enough, and I believe it's worthwhile enough to share with humanity, to share with the world, and that it's going to produce value, it's going to be worthwhile to everybody around us, and it's going to enhance my community in enough that I'm willing to be vulnerable. I'm willing to put myself in that hard situation because I trust in myself enough. That's a huge expression of healthy self-esteem. That's something you should strive for. That's how the world has changed. That's how you become a legend. That's how you really move the world, and that's how you advance as an individual. That's how you go up to the next level. So, you know what? You should really be questioning your conception of reality, how the way in which you act and the way in which people treat you, how is that affecting you? Is that helping you trust in your intuition? Is that making you believe that you have something to offer? Or is it depreciating your self-efficacy? Is it really programming you to be a cog in the wheel, right? Because you have a lot to offer. You have a lot to offer, but what is inside of you may not be accessible due to your self-esteem. Okay, so this idea is going to govern every video in this section, and I really want you to think about these things. It's going to govern every pillar, Nathaniel Brandon's pillars, you know, the 6 pillars of self-esteem that we're going to run through. It's going to crop up again and again. So when you run through that, be cognizant of the flow of value in your life. And you know what? Do whatever it takes to try to work on confiding in yourself, trusting in yourself before everybody else, okay? When you can do that, you're going to awaken to what's possible. And you're going to start taking more action. And you're going to go on an upward spiral towards a better life, better self-esteem, and what you really want, okay? So in the next video, we're going to dive into the first pillar of self-esteem. And we're going to take these ideas and this understanding and start working on bettering your self-esteem.